Our day-to-day lives are filled with movement. For people who have had a stroke, this changes. A stroke disrupts the brain and affects movement, strength, and balance.
You once could walk, run, sit down, stand up. Now I'm learning to do that all over again.
Well, you got to start like a baby learns how to walk, eh? So that's how you got to start.
The brain sends messages along the nerves to the muscles. The location of the stroke in the brain determines which nerves and muscles are affected. Every stroke is unique. It is different for everyone.
You're telling your brain to do it, but your arm's just not working, or your leg is just not moving.
Some people will say, well, it doesn't even feel like my own arm or my own leg. And so how can you move normally when you don't even feel that, can't feel or recognize that that limb is part of your own body?
Almost all people experience some of the following changes: decreased strength, decreased balance, and decreased movement.
Well, they have to be willing to try. It is a risk just to move again because it can be extremely scary to be up on your feet when you feel like you're going to fall, to try and use a leg that doesn't feel like it's going to hold you, to try and work with us, to try and trust us, to try and follow through as best they can, and to try and keep their motivation up.
One step builds upon another step. For example, before we can get the patient to walk, we have to get them to stand up. And before we can get that patient to stand up, we have to make sure that their muscles and their legs are strong enough so that they're able to stand up.
If somebody perceives all the time that, back here is the middle, and you're asking them, no, the middle is actually here. So if their normal is back here, they're going to perceive that they're falling on the floor. And so there's a lot of resistance to that. Therapy can be a very anxious time, so sometimes you have to kind of build that safety net and that trust.
Back like this one. You certainly can't be afraid. You've got to trust the people and do what they say and just do it. The first time somebody says you can stand, you quite frankly don't believe them, but after a while you do. The first time they say let go of the bar, there's fear in your heart that you're going to go right in the floor. And when you don't, then the faith is established, and after that it's easier.
While it is shocking to experience a sudden loss of movement and strength, significant recoveries are possible. Movement improves over time, primarily during the first 6 to 12 months after a stroke. Continuing to practice skills learned in therapy and general physical activity are important to maximizing recovery. They also have another benefit by reducing the risk of another stroke.
The goal is to get as much movement back as possible to allow the person to do as many things as possible. So to get as much movement, to get your arm and leg and your trunk working so that you can walk, you can get from bed to chair, you can roll.
It's not sort of just a simple thing your brain tells your arm to move and your arm moves. It takes time. You have to rebuild those messages, rebuild the strength, the muscles, the coordination. You need all these things to be able to do these daily tasks, and that for sure takes time.
As a stroke survivor, you are dealing with change. Adjusting to your physical limitations can be a challenge. This may include doing things differently in order to continue your participation in everyday events.
So I need to find out from them where is their, what I always say is their preferred discharge location. So where do they want to go when they leave here? And for most people that would be home. So then I have to figure out what are the things, the physical things, the mobility skills that they have to achieve in order to return home. So it's different if your home's a condo with no stairs versus a house in Toronto with 3 stories with the only bathroom upstairs and no rails on the stairs because it's a very old house. So that requires different skills than someone who lives in an accessible condo.
Stroke is a life-changing experience that affects not only the survivor, but the entire family and how each person participates in life activities.
Before you head home, the big thing that we're looking at is safety, of course, and you being able to be as independent as possible within the limits of others helping you. But the big thing is to be able to go home. So within that, we look at a lot of self-care activities. So When I mean self-care, I'm talking about things like being able to get dressed, being able to shave, put on your makeup, comb your hair, being able to get to the bathroom as safely and independently as possible. But another colleague of mine, interestingly enough, knows how to tie a shoe using one hand. So strategies like that make things a lot easier for the patient, but they'll see the success in knowing that they'll be able to do things on their own rather than relying on somebody else to do it for them.
After a stroke, some people experience challenges with intimacy. The closeness that a couple shares before a stroke is the best indicator of how their relationship will evolve after the stroke.
For those that do raise it as a concern, I think it's extremely important to meet with them one-on-one and talk about the fears. Will my partner, or if I'm single, will a future partner find me attractive? One part of my body may be paralyzed. I may have a slight drool. I think by talking with their partner, they may be surprised to learn that their partner may also have the same level of fear, and by coming together and sharing, that is a way of reestablishing intimacy and care.
I try to approach it from two levels. Number one, there is some medical